Hello, this is Colin with Maker Farm. This video we're going to show you how to put the Xaxis assembly onto the i3V. The V uses the aluminum extrusion. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to install the Tnut and the bolt for the Xaxis end stop. So what you're going to want to do on the right hand side of the machine, down at the very bottom, we're going to take a Tnut and we're just going to slide it in there. Until it's about there. Then just take a 12 millimeter long M5 bolt. We're just going to put it in there, tighten it down just to keep it from moving around, and then it'll make it a whole lot easier to do that now than it will if we do it later on. And actually we forgot to do that on our y-axis earlier when we were doing that. So the same thing on this side. We're going to want to install a T-nut and a bolt in there. So to do that, I'm just going to unscrew the right hand side of the Y idler. Then I can just pivot it down. Take that T-nut, put it in there. Install that 12 millimeter long bolt. Tilt it back up and install that bolt again. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to get our Xaxis, which we put together earlier. We're going to want to make sure that it's all facing the correct direction. So I have all my arrows with right. They're all pointing this way. So now I'm going to, I'm going to flip everything around so they're all going to be pointing this way. That might be easier to show you what we're doing. Lay this down. So now I've got all my arrows pointing this direction. And basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to be putting these down on that extrusion like that. We tightened them all up earlier. So right now they're tight, so this won't move. We're going to want to loosen the 4 up on the X idler side. So that we can move it back and forth. You're also going to want to loosen these here. And you're going to want to loosen these two right here. And with all those, that should let us move this back and forth, okay? So I'm going to just kind of get them on here and get them started. Okay, so now it's on there. So now what we're going to do, I'm going to put it down, and we still have a top piece that's going to go on the very top of our printer, which is right here. There's also a direction on it. It's going to tell us which way it goes on, and that is going to go right on the end, just like this. And we're going to use 2 of the 12 millimeter long bolts to go from the top of that piece directly into your aluminum extrusion. There's that side. Now I'm going to do the other side. Okay, and then on the back side, there's going to be 2 bolts, one here and one here. When the printer's standing up, those are on top. Those are just going to use the M3 16mm long bolts, and you're going to use 2 of the regular M3 nuts. Okay, and then once that's all tightened down, you have your top piece on the printer. If we keep it laying on the front of the printer here, you'll notice on the back in the middle we have these 4 holes. What those will actually do, those will line up with the 4 bolts that we put in earlier that basically tie the X motor and the X idler to these 2 extrusions, okay? So what we can do, we can actually use that to get in there and tighten those up on both sides. Okay. At this point, we also want to check the connection between the rollers here, the idlers, and you want to look. You can usually get up and look straight down from on top, and you can see if it's tight against the aluminum extrusion or not. If it's not tight, you can grab your wrench, and we're going to tighten that up just by turning that eccentric spacer. You don't want to have any play there, but you don't want it too tight that it binds it. Okay, so that side is good. Now I can go over to my X idler side, and what I want to do for the X idler is lift it up to that hole, so I can basically make sure that all of these are loose enough that I can move my X idler. Then I'm going to pull the X idler this direction. Or I can use my wrench and I can tighten that eccentric spacer. And once it's nice and snug, we don't want it too tight that it's going to restrict it a whole lot, but you don't want it loose. Then I can go ahead and tighten those down from the back. And then I've got the 2 top pieces to still tighten down. And then the 2 bolts for our belt idler. Okay, so now at this point we should have our X-axis being able to move up and down. You should be able to move it right to left. If you need to adjust the belt tension, you can do that by loosening these 4 bolts here, pulling the motor out away from the machine. If it's still too loose, you may have not made your belts the correct length, and you can re-zip tie them so that they're closer together, so that there's a larger loop basically, and then that would take care of the XY movement. And then you have your Y bed, which now should also be able to move back and forth. The next part that we're going to do is going to be to add our Z rods to this. I'm going to do that in a different video, but that will be next. If you have any questions, make sure to refer to your build guide, or you can contact us with the contact information in the build guide also. Thank you.